Hi, Francesca. How you doing? Thank you so much for including your mock-up. Um, let's go ahead and take a look. This writing is fantastic. You've really done an amazing job describing intent. You've left nothing here to chance. So that's really fantastic. I've learned so much about what you've learned in creating and presenting a brochure just through your writing. So this is really fantastic. And it's given me a few talking points for the critique itself. So again, fantastic job. And I just want to reiterate how important it is for student designers to be able to express themselves in terms of describing the intent, methodology, and conceptual development behind any design project at all. So again, I'm just really pleased to see this wonderful written rationale. Thank you so much. Those of you who are watching, please understand the importance and relevance of describing your work based on your experience with any project to the point where you're at in the project. So again, really great job there. Okay, let's go ahead and jump. I don't really need to open the PDF. I think we can do this right here within the LMS window. So I'll go ahead and do that. So one thing I want to, I'm just going to be referring from, I'm on the week 5 project 2 part 2 mockups page, and I'm going to be referring to this part 3 working on your design, because I think there's some really interesting things here that warrant mentioning. So we take a look at where we're at. So we take a look at the trifold, and the first thing I see, my first reaction is, wow, there's a lot here. There's really no expeditious use of negative space. You've taken the entire composition and you've just chock filled with information from corner to corner, top to bottom, side to side. So try to think about negative space in its role in message making, okay? Think about that. I'm going to go through a lot. I've got a lot to say here, so just bear with me. This might take a minute, but it's all really super relevant stuff that I want you to think about. So we take a look at that list I was talking about. So be sure your design brochure is folded correctly. And that brings me to this consideration. You've got a lot of things spanning the width of each individual column, and you've got these color blocks behind them. This is a production nightmare, and I want to tell you why. The reason being is because when you start using boxes, well, placing elements in boxes is, and I don't want to sound discouraging, but I think this has come up a few times thus far in the last 5 weeks. So it definitely warrants mentioning. Placing things in boxes is extensive use of background boxes and placing elements in boxes and framing elements. And this extensive use of compartmentalization is something we see a lot in amateur design. What happens is by placing things in boxes, all these boxes, you're creating a degree of separation from the main composition. Okay, so basically it works in some instances, but I think the extensive use in this boxes is creating too much separation. It's not allowing the page to have this infinite relationship with itself, if that makes sense. Okay, so what you're saying is support. This is a separate section. It belongs over here. It's jail cordoned off. It's in jail. Donate is another section. It's over here. It's cordoned off. It's sectioned off. It's in jail. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's allow these different elements to break through their confining position and allow them this open relationship with the composition. Another issue of, well, the main production issue I was talking about before is these folds right here. When this becomes folded, you're saying that this fold has got to be perfect. If it's off at all, you're either going to get some slivers of green, some slivers of blue, or an uneven distribution of the white. Okay, same thing here, 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 all everywhere. Every one of these areas is a potential production nightmare. So keep that in mind. And if you know what, go ahead and print this out in black and white on a quick draft, which I always recommend you do anyways, so you can get a look at the piece and how it behaves in the real world. So print this out black and white, grayscale quick draft, and you'll see what I mean. You can also check your type sizes. That's a great way as well. Sorry about that. Okay, so okay, so we have these boxes here. The logo, I think the logo is pretty good, and I think the logo is very strong. Now, when we take a look at this right here, be sure to design brochure for all the correct. Think about designing the cover to draw the user attention with imagery and titles. Consider it a strong call to action on the cover, and all throughout the brochure as well. So you've done a good job designing the back cover to trace back to the organization. That's great. So I mean, theoretically and conceptually, the front and back covers are set up pretty well. I'm not with. I don't agree with this placing this in a box. I would incorporate that somehow into the actual presentation itself. Now, this is really super predictable. Okay, so we have a brochure dealing with Pet Community Center. So we have images of dogs and cats on the cover. It's not bad at all. I mean, it works, it's functional, it's informational, it works, but it's super predictable. Do we want to be that? Now listen, I'm going to say it like this, okay? In this particular assignment, if you have this assignment, 100 designers are tasked to design a brochure for Pet Community Center, okay? 99 out of 100 are going to place pictures of cats and dogs on the cover, right? Do you want to be in that group, or do you want to be the one that takes a complete, separate, unique approach? Okay, food for thought. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, just food for thought. Okay, now we come across to the back, and again, we've got a really kind of compromised hierarchy. And the reason I say that is because these are theoretically subsections, right? And should be treated as such. Being that these are subsections, they're of equal importance, right? But you're not saying that typographically. This is the largest, these are the two largest types on the page, services and pharmacy. Services exceeds, did you know, in terms of hierarchy, because it's bigger. That shouldn't be, right? These are all subsections. They should have equal hierarchical distribution. Does that make sense? And I think one of the reasons that you've done that is because you're trying to fit your type based on the amount of words in the subheading section, right? So did you know has 3 words, and so of course theoretically it's going to be smaller type than services in order to fit in the same spot, right? And again, that points back to trying to fit your headings into these predefined areas, as opposed to working them in typographically where you could use the same size type for each subheading. Okay, does that make sense? Another observation here is your stroking type right here. That should be on the list for things considered not to be best typographic practices. You don't ever want to place a stroke around your type. Okay, a much superior, most students place stroke on a type to try to improve the readability or the legibility, or try to make it stand out a little bit. It works, there's a negative effect of stroking type, and what that is it actually changes the shapes of the letter forms. If you're placing a stroke on the inside or outside of the outside margin of a particular letter form, theoretically it's going to change the shape. That means it's going to change the relationship of the counter space associated with that letter form, and it's also going to change its relationship with its neighboring letters. And we can clearly see that where this little closed counter right here on a cap A is tiny, and is based on the fact that it has to find space to place the stroke. Okay, I do not recommend placing stroke on type ever. Some situations warrant an increase in the visibility or readability or visibility. I think a superior technique to this is to duplicate the text, place it behind, color it darker, and offset it a little bit. Creates kind of a drop shadow effect without having to use a drop shadow, which on text, which is also something that would not be considered to be a industry best practice. Okay, now another thing I think I'm seeing here is that these subsections are, okay, so you're saying services, right? Now, isn't pharmacy a service? So yeah, I mean, that would be part of the services, okay? The walk-in clinic and the mobile clinic would be part of their services, right? So shouldn't those all fit together? Then you have do you know, did you know, which I think is an interesting little inclusion, but My point here is that you can group these things together and actually do so in a way that will enhance the um, visual engagement and the interesting nature of the layout by breaking a trifold out of these three column separate columns, breaking them out of that format and maybe taking two columns and formatting those together to be one. Okay, so you can take this services, include walk-in clinic, mobile clinic, and pharmacy, expand the area you're presenting in to include two panels, okay? Then take Did You Know, place it on the third panel, right? Try it. I think it's going to be very interesting. Let's go to typography. I agree. I think that it's an interesting um, typographic variety to include sans serif and serif, and I think that's a good job there. Um, just taking a look at typography. The back panel right here has this listed, this kind of our mission. It's listed in bold type, so it really is standing out off the page and almost bold type makes the viewer, bold type in all caps kind of makes the viewer feel like they're getting yelled at. Is there any reason this has to be bold type? I mean, I'm just wondering what is the reasoning for trying to present this in bold type and also centered? This is a center type composition. So as we know from our studies, center alignment does nothing to activate negative space. It presents a symmetry that is not always the most interesting thing in the world, specifically for extended type. Well, this isn't really extended, but the main issue I'm seeing with this is the cadence that's caused by the short type column and the fact that it's center aligned. So and the type size as well. So what we have here is the cadence goes like this. Now we automatically take breaks after every line, right, of type. That's just the way it is. So, and I'm going to exaggerate this example, but listen, Pet Community Center is dedicated to strengthening the human-animal pet bond and to ending overpopulation. Technically, that's a widow. That's a word on a line that resides on a line by itself. Technically, that's a widow. See, the cadence is all out of whack. It doesn't read well. What you want to do is try to format this so that you read it and try to sound out your cadence as you're reading it. And a great way to determine cadence is to look at each individual line and just imagine that there's a little break at the end of the line. Now, and again, I think it's a great practice over exaggerate that break so that you can get your cadence correct, so that it provides comfortable reading and meaning to the viewer. Okay. Let me see, more type. So, okay, this is good. That V is off out of alignment. I'm going to take let me do this real quick. I'm just going to get rid of that type there. I'm just going to grab this to use it as a straight edge, but I believe I see some alignment issues. So, oh, I see what you did. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the V is in alignment, but the V, the curve, the diagonal nature of that V makes the top of the serif the only thing in alignment. Typically, what I do in a situation like this is I'll take that subhead and I'll bump it over to the left a little bit, just to accommodate for the optical illusion that this is indented further than the others based on this diagonal in the subhead. Okay. I'm just looking at a lot of your typographic relationships here. Okay. Again, center align. Boy, I don't know. You might want to rethink that. And I'm thinking out loud. I'm not okay. So that's good. Good alignment. Pretty good hierarchy. So it seems typographically. Well, I see some issues with your rags. So most of your rags look pretty good, but this is an issue right here. That right there, that big diagonal, that's something you don't want in your rags. You also don't want a big variation in the longest line and the shortest line. So that creates a diagonal too. You try to avoid any kind of diagonals like this. Um, So mobile clinic hours every Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 4. Is that a relevant statement right there? Does that provide any information? I don't think it does because you're saying we have a mobile clinic, but mobile clinic hours are Tuesday to Friday. Where's the mobile clinic? It's mobile, so it's wouldn't that be a pertinent piece of information? I'm nitpicking. I know I am. I understand, but I'm just trying to give you. Wow, I'm 15 minutes. I didn't want to do that. I really did, Francesca. So, I mean, there's a lot here, and I really want to be as thorough as possible. Think about what I'm saying. Think about my comments. If you have any questions, please let me know. But try to apply, and it's the most important thing to do is understand what I'm saying and to be able to apply to your design work moving forward, as well as in this particular situation here. I just found something else. I think this repetition here is a little bit overdone. Okay, think about negative space. So important to use negative space. I'm trying to wrap it up here quickly now because I just looked down and I was like, wow, I'm at 16 minutes. That's crazy. So anyways, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any clarifications needed. But try to apply some of these techniques and some of these comments, which might require you, well, obviously with a 15-minute video, it's probably going to require you to go back and look at a couple of areas of this video twice. Again, I so much apologize for the 16-minute video. I had no idea I was carrying on that long. So, okay, the most important thing, of course, at this point is to let me know if you have any questions. All right, great job. Thanks for kicking things off.